For a gospel lesson, we are reading from the Gospel according to John. And we are reading a portion of the 13th chapter, and the 13th chapter is the beginning of the night before Jesus' death. Now, most of us think of the night before Jesus' death as a supper that focuses on wine and bread. But John doesn't tell the story that way, so let me give you just a little context. John's focus is on something that Jesus does. He washes the feet of his friends, his disciples. And he says to them that there's a lesson in that. And we hear very little about the supper, but we do hear Jesus challenging Judas and pointing him out by giving him a piece of bread and saying to him, now go do what you have to do and do it quickly. So as we begin at verse 31 in the New Revised Standard Version, we hear when he had gone out. And the he is Judas. When Judas had gone out, Jesus said, now the Son of Man has been glorified, and God has been glorified in him. If God has been glorified in him, God will also glorify him in himself, and will glorify him at once. Little children, he calls his closest friends. Little children, I am with you only a little while longer. You will look for me, and as I said to the Jews, so now I say to you, where I am going, you cannot come. Yet I give you a new commandment, that you love one another. Just as I have loved you, you also should love one another. By this, everyone will know that you are my disciples, if you have love for one another. Here ends the reading of the gospel. May God, who gives us such fine words, bring them to life in your living and mine.
Well, good to see all of you again. You doing well? At first I was saying how good to see you back, and then someone reminded me it was me who was away. So don't call me Granny, please. That's from the Beverly Hillbillies. But I am an Oma again, one more time, which makes Doug a papa. And, you know, there's something delightful about babies, isn't there? Well, here's a question for you. If the CRA sends you that note saying that your file is under review and would you like to send additional information, is that a request or is that a command? Well, are you eager to comply? Do you have to? So you're driving and the police car behind you starts flashing its light, then there's the loud, you know it's not you because you're not doing anything wrong, and then the loudspeaker voice says, pull your car over to the side, please. Is that a request or is that a command? Are you eager to comply? Do you have to? Here's a tricky one. Your mom, your spouse, your partner asks you to take the garbage out as you said you would yesterday. Is that a request or a command? You better get that one right. Are you eager? Do you have to? If you know it's good for you. Just hours before his arrest, Jesus tells his disciples, love one another as I have loved you, request or command? A new commandment I give to you, that you love one another as I have loved you. Can you say those words with me? We'll say them several times so you'll get it. A new commandment I give to you, that you love one another as I have loved you. What's the difference between a request and a command. With a genuine request, we usually do it for two reasons. One is because we feel like it. Would you like to try one of these cookies still warm from the oven? Yes, please. And with a genuine request, there are no negative consequences if we say no. Would you mind taking the garbage out? You know, it's not what I'd do if I didn't have to do, but if you don't, one, it's stinky. Two, you'll attract flies. Three, you'll attract rats. Four, it will take me 40 seconds that I really don't want to give. And maybe I don't like to be reminded of something that I should have done in the first place. But are there consequences if I don't do it? Yeah. So why is Jesus making this love a commandment and not just a request that any reasonable group of people who'd been learning to live together for 3 years would want to do? It's because what Jesus means by love is different from what our culture and what most cultures mean by love. For instance, not a loaded question, do you love your family? At least most of the time. Some families are challenging. But, they may not be perfect, but they're yours. You feel it. The New Testament has a word for family love, and you may experience church as family some of the time. It's like having brothers and sisters and cousins and grandparents. It's really nice when it works, isn't it? Isn't it great to see people that you really like to be with? And so the Greek word for that, the Greeks had 4 words for love. The Greek word for that is storge, if you're taking notes. It's a wonderful family, it's a wonderful feeling, something you feel. And then the New Testament has a different word for love when it means sexual attraction, eros, which God invented. And our culture is actually shockingly bad at this. Because I was reading David Fitch this morning. He reminded me that for our culture, it's all about expression of our authentic self and the right to complete autonomy and ownership of our own body. We've lost any depth of meaning for the spiritual processes for which in the Christian is found in the practice of marriage and preparation for marriage. Like that business in London, Ontario. Are you following that? The issue in the end isn't whether what happened was legal or not legal, consensual or non-consensual, sober or drunken. It was degrading for absolutely everybody involved. This was not what God intended for eros. The traditional United Church ceremony says God has created marriage so that natural instincts and affections might be fulfilled in an atmosphere of mutual love, and that children might have the benefit of family life, and so that society might rest on a firm foundation. Can you see I've said that a few times? That ethic of personal fulfillment takes you to an entirely different place. And then the New Testament has another word for love between good friends or siblings. I did a road trip through small town southwest Ontario yesterday with my sisters. Did you know that there is a full submarine in Port Burwell, Ontario, and that you could tour it? It was just an accidental discovery. We had such a good time because we like doing the same things. And the word for that in Greek is philos. Philadelphia means city of brotherly love. Philosophy means affection for wisdom. Philanthropy means the desire for the good of your fellow human beings. Is it a feeling? Yeah, it's a good feeling. But when Jesus says, a new commandment I give to you, that you love one another as I have loved you, the word he means is not the word for the love between parents and children, and it is not erotic sexual attraction, and it is not the love that people have together as brothers and sisters and friends. None of them. Jesus doesn't use any of those words. He commands a love that, with a word that is hardly ever used in the Greek New Testament, hardly ever used in the Greek language. The word he uses is agape. Can you say that word with me? Agape. Some people will say agape. It's okay. So wait a sec, was it a command or a request? Agape is weird because it's the only love that does not involve your feelings and may even at times run contrary to your feelings. It involves disciplined actions that have us treat the other person for their greatest good, whatever feelings or non-feelings we're having at the moment. You know, I don't want to deal with the CRA. I know all my paperwork is in order. In fact, when I have to, I will find a receipt that I forgot to send them the first time, and they will owe me money. We do this dance year after year. But I will do it. And I don't want to pull over and hear what the police officer has to say to me, because whenever that happens, it is never good news. But I will. And Jesus said, a new commandment I give to you. Just say that with me. A new commandment I give to you, that you love one another as I have loved you. As I have loved you. Sorry, what does Jesus mean by that specifically? Well, as Gus, thank you so much for doing that, Gus. What a great setup. In the Gospel of John, right before he says that, Jesus demonstrates what he means by that agape by washing the disciples' stinking, dirty feet. Now, in those days, people wore open sandals wherever they went, and the roads were not like our roads. They were dusty, they were muddy, and they were full of manure. So when you went into a house, you did not track that stuff into the house, and it wasn't good enough taking off your shoes. You had to take off your shoes, and somebody, usually a servant, sometimes a child, would take a basin of water, and using their left hand only, because your left hand was used for handling unclean things, your right hand was used for handling food. Using your left hand only, they would rinse the guck off the feet of the person coming in and dry it with a towel. And when Jesus, nobody loved doing that. This was not a volunteer position. And when Simon Peter tried to stop Jesus, he said, "No, Lord, you are never going to wash my feet." Jesus answered, "Unless I wash your feet, you will have no part of me," because it was intrinsically connected to what Jesus means. This is a new commandment I give to you, that you agape love one another as I have loved you. Because for our culture, love is a feeling that does something for us. We love someone because something in them speaks to something in us. It calls out something in us that really wants, that really needs what they have to offer. It's like having an itch that you didn't know itch until somebody scratched it. It's where other people complete us, where we feel incomplete, enhance who we are, elevate how we feel. They do something for us. We get something out of it. And if they don't do something for us anymore, or at all, then we don't love them the same way anymore. And feelings are involuntary. I mean, can you make yourself feel something that you're not feeling? Can you make yourself stop feeling something that you're feelings are fickle. C.S. Lewis described that kind of love as a kind of a hunger. And there are people in our lives who satisfy that hunger for affirmation or meaning or fulfillment. And we're kind of like consumers. We eat it up. I know a young woman, probably back 2 churches ago, who broke off with her fiance because she saw the way he talked to his mother and to servers in the restaurants, like they were really appreciated when they served him in the way that he wanted to be served, and with absolute contempt when they didn't. And she realized that if she married this guy, that's exactly what she would be getting. This guy loved himself more than he loved anybody else. And he loved other people for what they could do for him. And that was how he was going to love her, and so she just got out of there. You know, I'm really touched I often see this, I'm really touched when usually elderly people, where one has dementia or some other very serious condition, and the other lovingly goes to visit them, cares for them, and they're not getting anything in return because what makes them do that? I know of a former president of a corporation who got cancer and his company dumped him. And because it was south of the border, he used up all of his insurance money and treatment, all of his family savings. His family was destitute. And he had always been one of those guys who was very vocal in what he thought about religion. He didn't like it very much. But his neighbor was an elder in a local church and also a realtor. And he recruited the church. And what the church did is they helped the family sell the house. They made the payments on the house until it was sold. They found his wife an apartment. They helped her get a job. And that man never became a Christian, but he experienced God's love through those acts of kindness. And the rest of his family gave their lives to Christ and joined the church because they experienced something that was so countercultural. When Jesus says a new commandment, the word he uses for new doesn't mean novel or nobody's ever thought of this before. It means new, like when the grass turns green and the leaves come out in spring. It means new, like when muffins come fresh out of the oven. The commandment is a kind of newness that refreshes, it delights, it fills your senses, it recalls the best moments of your life, the people you love the most, the people who've loved you the most when you deserved it the least. It's not a suggestion, it's not a request, it's a commandment to the best that God has for you. And not let your feelings run and ruin your life and the lives of those around you. It's a commandment to vacuum out the cobwebs and the dust bunnies and the dead spiders out of the corners of the windows of your house. And to live in union with Jesus Christ and in the midst of his church and fellow believers. He says a new commandment, a life-affirming commandment, a life-giving commandment, where instead of being a consumer, we're also a giver. Do this, Jesus says, and the whole world will know that you are my disciples. Why is this commandment of Jesus so important for us? Well, one, it's your ID card that identifies you as a disciple of Jesus. I mean, I love church. I love having everybody in church. I love having people come as consumers and they have nothing to give back when they arrive. That's absolutely fine. But there are times when you're not feeling it. What are you going to do then? Yeah, most of you have actually experienced that. Most of you stayed. That's agape love. That makes you disciples and not consumers. So why is Jesus' commandment so important? Because it makes you and me dependent on the Holy Spirit. It's not humanly possible to love indefinitely on your own strength. It's not normal. But the love of Jesus is not transactional. It is this overflow. It's what the 23rd Psalm says, my cup runneth over. It is this overflow of love that has not only enough for himself, but enough for you. Gives you not only, it's like those chocolate fountains at weddings, you know? Not only enough for you, but it overflows onto others. You're not working from a hunger deficit. You're working from too much and more than you need. It's like, without that, when you try to give and give and give and give, it's like if you have a bank account, you can only give and give and give and give till you run out of money, right? If you don't have that ever-flowing presence of the Holy Spirit pouring the love of God into our hearts, you give and you give and you give until you run empty, and then you just better get out of there or you'll turn bitter and cynical at the ingratitude of people. Why is Jesus' commandment so important? Because without it, we can never truly comprehend the love that God has for us in Jesus Christ, a love that cannot be earned by our goodness, that cannot be increased by our good works, but love that overflows from the goodness of God. I just keep that chocolate fountain image in your mind. That works for me. I don't know if it works for you. And that Spirit of Jesus can live in you. You know, it can shrink that selfish, self-entitled, it's all about me and what I need. It can make us more like Jesus. And it can rekindle the affection that God has given, the affection that God, I can't get the sentence. The affection that God intends for the people he's given us to love. And I know this is true from talking to couples. It's hard to do. If I can convince them to treat each other as if they loved each other, the feelings follow. Because feelings follow actions. They say, well, when I feel it, I'm going to do it. I think, sweetheart, that ain't going to happen. I'll love them when they deserve it. I said, sweetheart, that's not going to happen either. You start with the actions, the feelings follow. It's true of almost every relationship, even work. What God does is when we do that, we build up what has been torn down. We make this world the better place that God has intended it to be. So we're going to bow our heads now, and we're just going to ask for a renewal of that Spirit of God, because Jesus asks us to do the impossible, which is possible in him. And that is the best that we have to offer. So